Stephen Moore, welcome to the program. Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder. If I remember right, you've been with me against tariffs for a long time. Have you changed on this? Because I think I'm changing, Stephen.
Hey, Glenn. So good to be with you. And by the way, I'm also an informal advisor to Trump on the economy. And,
good.
And by the way, he knows that I'm not a huge fan of tariffs, but I mean, you set this up very well. You know, a tariff is basically a consumption tax.
Correct.
If we had something you and I have talked about over the years, Glenn, is a national retail sales tax to replace the income tax. Well, if you did that, you would essentially be, taxing everything when it came in to the country because it's going to be consumed here. Yeah. And so what Trump is basically talking about, which I think is a really interesting idea, is not necessarily getting rid of the income tax, but lowering all the tax rates to 15%. Right now, we're at like 30% or more. And then imposing
what world do you live in? I'd celebrate with 30% income tax.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you're really rich, you could be up to about 40%.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that idea. I mean, so I broached with Trump the other day this idea of 15, 15, 15. So how about if we have a 15% corporate rate, a 15% individual income tax rate, a 15% universal tariff, a 15% cap gains dividend? Can you imagine that? We would suck up so much capital.
It would unleash prosperity like nobody's business. Nobody's business.
It would.
And look,
no country could compete with us here. No. Let me give you an example, Glenn, that I think everybody can relate to because you have listeners around the country. You know what 2 or 3 states in the United States have the biggest in-migration right now?
Yeah, Florida and Texas.
And Tennessee. Okay. Now, for a bonus question, I know you're supposed to be asking questions. Yeah. Do you know what those 3 states have in common?
No income tax.
No income tax.
Yeah.
So people and businesses and capital and jobs migrate to the places with low tax rates. So if we had the lowest tax rates in the world on top of, the greatest workers in the world, the greatest minds in the world, the freest country in the world, I mean, we would just blow away the rest of the world. And Trump is I don't know, it's going to be tough to get that done, but that's where he wants to end up.
I tell you, that is the problem we've always had with tariffs, for me at least, is it's just a tax and you're already taxing us.
Right.
And, it's like, well, then buy American and you don't have to pay for that tariff. Okay, but I'm already being taxed at a pretty high rate. Please, I don't want to pay more for things that maybe I want or maybe that are cheaper because they were coming from China.
Yeah, so let me explain. Again, this is a good conversation for people to have because, Trump has said different things at different times. But in my conversation with last week, it was basically saying, he puts it very simply. He said this in some of his speeches, too. What he wants to do is charge a 15% tax on things that are made in China or, Europe or Japan. But if it's made in Michigan or Ohio or Pennsylvania or California or Maine, he wants to have the rate 15%. And I'm like, well, I can live with that, Mr. President. I think that's a pretty cool idea. I mean, I'm an America First guy. If I'd rather have people buy things that are made in America, all things equal.
Wait. You just said if it's from China, you're paying 15% tariff. But if it's made in America, you said you pay an extra 15%.
No, not an extra.
That's zero.
I'm sorry. We're cutting. No, what I'm saying is you're going to pay a 15% income tax if it's made in the United States. In other words, the profits you make on selling something, let's say you make widgets and you make a profit on making those widgets in Pennsylvania or wherever it is, you're only going to pay a 15% income tax.
But to buy that product, if it's made in America, you don't pay any tax.
No.
Yeah.
It's not no. In other words, so what you're trying to do is skew the table a little bit more in favor of buying things made in the U.S. versus other countries. And by the way, that's what all the other countries do to us.
I know. I have to tell you, I think the way the president is handling really everything, I've never seen anything like this, Stephen. Have you?
Me neither. No, I've been in the game about as long as you have. I mean, I arrived in Washington in the Reagan years, so I still think Reagan was one of our greatest presidents. But I think Trump, it's interesting because whenever we have meetings like Laffer and I with Trump, he's always asking about Reagan. He's very kind of envious. He wants to go down in history as being one of the great presidents like Reagan. And that's a good role model to have.
Yeah.
And so, I think you're going to see, and he also understands, Glenn, he's only got really about 2 years to get it done,
Yes.
and then we'll be, because remember, he's a lame duck. He can't run for re-election again. So he understands that. That's why he raced out of the gate like secretary at the minute he took the oath of office. And I think, I think I said on your show a month ago or so, buckle up because this is going to be a hell of a ride. And it's only been 3 weeks.
I know.
It's amazing.
17 days. And I think he's accomplished more than most presidents have done in their entire term.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. He told me because I said, you've got only 2 years to do this. He said, Glenn, 2 years, I've got 100 days. If I don't have all this done in 100 days, it's not going to get done.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to that. And that's why we have to get this tax cut done. That's one of my highest priorities is, making sure that we make the tax cut that we passed in 2017 permanent. I want to make sure your listeners understand something. I think most of your listeners know this, but a lot of people are not aware of it. If Congress does nothing, everyone's taxes are going to go up next year.
Correct.
Everyone's, and we don't want Donald Trump raising tax on people. And so we got to get this tax cut done. I like his idea of no tax on tips. I like the idea of no tax on overtime. We'll add some other things on it. But these are all oriented towards making the American economy great again. And it's going to work.
Why aren't we going for 15-15-15 over doing, making this permanent? Why not just in one move try to go for the whole enchilada?
Stick around, my friend. Well, that may happen. We'll see how it turns out. At the very minimum, we have to make those tax cuts permanent. But we may go further than that. I mean, we may go with 15-15-15. And that would be a remarkable accomplishment. And then, we're going to produce American energy. He's already slashed the regulation costs. So it's going to make America incredibly competitive. And the jobs are going to flow here, not to China and Japan and all the other countries.
We not only have to grow our bottom line, grow our way out of this, which we can, but we also must cut. If it'll take, I think, 65 years at this point at the speed of Doge, and they're cutting like crazy to actually balance the budget. Are we going to be able to cut enough? Is there an appetite for that?
Well, I've been as I said, I've been in this town for 40 years, and Republicans talk a good game, but when it comes right down to it, they like to spend money just as much as Democrats do. So, look, I think. How about what Trump is talking about getting rid of all these crazy foreign aid programs? I mean, the left is hyperventilating about this, but those programs never work. They don't lead to any development. They just create a huge international bureaucracy of people who hate America. So, I mean, this guy has a spine of steel. I mean, he really does.
He really does. Stephen, thank you so much. God bless you.
Okay, Glenn.
Keep us informed, will you?
We should check in more office.
Yeah. I will.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Stephen Moore, Committee to Unleash Prosperity. I have to tell you, I think if he did 15-15-15, it would explode.
Which is 15% flat income tax.
Yes.
15% corporate. And
15% tariff.
Wow.
So you don't make it in America. You know how many people, what's the company that bought Ford and Jaguar and everything? Stellantis? What? I can't remember the name of that company. But they're now talking about coming back to America because of the tariffs. They're going to make the Jeep back in Detroit. They've already moved 1,500 jobs back to a factory here in America. They're going to now move them also back to Detroit to make the Jeep back in America. That's what happens.
Yeah.
If you have a tariff and you have 15% tax, this is why, it's fascinating. This is why when we were headed towards that global government, this is why the president and all the leaders of the West tried to get an agreement that there would be a minimum corporate tax. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And we were all part of that. A minimum corporate tax. No. We're not going to hobble everybody. If we can work it to our advantage so we grow, why would we hobble ourselves?
Yeah.
And 15-15-15 would blow the world away. Blow it away.
Make us far more competitive than any other industrialized nation.
The jobs that would be created here, you would get more money into the coffers of the United States government because the prosperity would be so high.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing.
And to replace the progressive income tax with just a 15% flat tax, that would make such a huge difference.
Are you kidding me?
In Americans'
Think
lives.
of just this. If we had a flat tax, think of how many dollars are wasted on IRS audits.
Yeah.
How much time is wasted at places like H&R Block?
Yeah.
Your accountant, how much time you spend putting your taxes, getting the receipts, figuring it all out. Think of just the man hours. Forget about the money that's being lost in preparing it. Just the man hours. If you had those man hours back, what could we be doing with that money and those man hours? Just that is game-changing in growing the economy because you have more money to keep and more time to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, if he can do 15, 15, 15, if he could pull that off, it's a new world.
And Stephen Moore said it's a possibility?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. That is amazing.